I finished serving 2 years at St. John's Cathedral in downtown. I was sharing earlier that I'm actually there through August, but I'm enjoying vacation, so I'm here with you today. I've been serving as a chaplain for the Lutheran Episcopal Campus Ministry at Cal State Long Beach, and in other volunteer capacities, and preaching and presiding at Lutheran churches. So that's where I've been most recently, last week, at a Lutheran church. So thank you for having me here today. And I've heard wonderful things about it, and I'm really honored to share with your community and worship. So, yeah. Speaking of this chaplain place where I've been recently during the week, and having just finished our annual report, when I reread the gospel this week, I was kind of in this mindset that just was drawn to the numbers, 100-fold, 60-fold, 30-fold. A number of the questions on my annual reports that I included are numbers questions. How many students came to activities? How many were baptized? How many took communion? This is part of the Lutheran form. We have 15 pages of questions. So, of course, when I read the gospel, I saw the numbers, and I thought, wow, some of the colors just have amazing numbers. What can I do differently in my campus ministry? These wow numbers. And in that cultural context of the gospel, the norm supposedly would have been 4 to 5. This sort of is something pretty good to get. Or that's the way I was reading it. But like those reports, just to make another comment on the report, the numbers are just one way of trying to get a sense of what difference my presence or the ministry's presence is making in the community. And that's not my other reports that we have to do. And I think these are all good questions, but what I noticed in myself is that by the time I finished this report, I somehow switched from these stories of relationships and things that were happening in people's lives to somehow being a map of how much time per student baptized was it spending related to the dollar amount. Like, I switched gears somehow. And this gospel was a good chance for me to kind of get back on track. The more I read it and reflected, the more I started paying attention to what the sower was really up to. In rereading the historical, some bits of historical context from Matthew's seed, sower, soil story, I started to think, wait a minute, what is this experienced farmer doing? Gathering expensive seeds here and there. I mean, in that context, the seeds were quite expensive, and thinking of just the farms around here, how much care was in planting and putting the seeds in the ground. Maybe you have gardens where you do the same kind of thoughtfulness and where the seeds go. But here is this sower kind of walking through and gathering seeds, and some laying on thorns, some dry ground, some big soil. And I was reminded, sure enough, you never actually hear that the sower went back and looked at the produce that did, this amazing produce that did happen. But what I'm invited to, and maybe what I would invite you to, instead of reading this story about a sower who maybe is hurried or careless, what happens when we read it as a description of a sower who actually believes in abundance, who is trusting and hopeful? If God, through Jesus in this story, is the sower, and the seed of the law, which we as Christians understand as living in the pattern of Jesus, and humanity is represented across the spectrum as a soil scenario, then I think we can imagine a divine sower, picture this divine sower literally handing out new life invitations without discrimination of who will receive it and who will act on it. I know something about this from my experience with people with loved ones in recovery. You can invite and imagine ready for us to embrace newness and change. It's almost as if the sower was spreading with this hopefulness and this expectation that when the soil is ready, something will happen. And while the conversation about the soil and good soil is important to reflect on who responds and who doesn't and why, this morning I actually want to invite you again to ponder the image of the sower and hear a call to live like this divine sower in sharing more generously God's good news. Yes, we do need to be intentional and thoughtful about what we're doing, but we should not let our assumptions about others keep us from or limit us from an open-handed offering of God's love. This is a faith-filled way of being in relationships with each other that focuses more on taking some risk than calculating the outcome so much, like being so afraid of, is this really worth my time? Or is it going to fall on deaf ears? Or who's going to care? Being too focused on the outcome can limit us from even trying in the first place. I've been reflecting on this. What does this mean for me as a chaplain at Cal State Long Beach? Let me ask you, where could you take risk in loving and living more generously without prejudging or being afraid of the outcome? Where might you, in your family, in your workplace, at school, where might you emulate this divine sower in your own relationship? I know this is pretty countercultural in a world that really more and more is focused on calculating all the possible outcomes and risks to determine the most efficient, cost-effective way of relating to each other, doing business. This is a persevering way of being in the world that values relationships, not that other